So transfer window season is upon us and everybody's banging on about this player and that player and this player and that player and everybody we should buy. However, let's not forget that Manchester United has a good, strong history of developing players and giving them a chance in the first team. Adam McCullough, are we still doing that? Are we being linked to too many footballers?
We're being linked to an awful lot of footballers, but that's not our fault, is it? The media put Manchester United and any player's name in a headline and it will attract hits. We saw Stephen Arson going loopy on Twitter yesterday because of it all. I think he's lost the plot now. Transfer Daily's taken its toll. But it's true, everyone gets linked to Manchester United. Even like Roberto Firmino, he was linked with Manchester United, and now it's come out that we were never in after. Like agents and players link their names to United to get a better contract or to get offers from elsewhere. And it does get a little bit boring, to be honest. But I don't think we've lost our traditions, our values. Louis van Gaal still upholds them. And if you look at last season, how many academy players come through and had an opportunity with the first team, and I don't think we've been too bad, to be honest.
Okay. Howson, talking about last season, do you think we promoted from within enough?
Yeah, Louis van Gaal gave 7 or 8 debuts out last year. He also played James Wilson quite regularly. I think what's happening under Louis van Gaal is he's probably giving games to players that might not have got a game under Sir Alex, and some are sinking and some are swimming, and I think that's a good thing. At least we know where players are at. There's no one just bobbing along in the under-21s. You're either promoted and you're good enough, or you're promoted and you're not good enough, but at least we find out, and he seems to be getting rid of those who can't do it.
Okay. Dave, are there any players that you're aware of that United should be giving more game time to, do you think, or players in positions we have that might be around the age of 20 where you've seen us being endlessly linked to players in that position?
I think one player essentially that's for the future definitely is Paddy McNair. I've been really, really impressed with him this season. Obviously, he's centre mid by trade, but he's very comfortable on the ball. Has fit into centre half perfectly. Had games where he's been a bit of hit and miss in the season. You think of Southampton away where he's hauled off after 37 minutes. But I think he's a player that we can develop. You know, maybe sort of an older centre half in, like a Sergio Ramos, a Hummels, whoever we're being linked with today. Bring someone like that in, work with Paddy McNair, work on his defensive side, but he'll just be fantastic, bringing the ball out in the future. He's just going to develop into an all-round top player. You look at the stats of it, players under 21 in the Premier League. Paddy McNair has completed on average 36 passes per game. That's more than any other player in that age bracket. So he's got talent, very much talent. He's very much on his technique as well. There was an interview in the Belfast Telegraph that mentioned how Paddy McNair used to spend about 4 or 5 hours a day just kicking a ball against the wall, different foot, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, over and over again, just to work on his technique. I think that's what Paddy's got. He's got improvement in him, and that's a massive thing for a young player.
Okay, quality. So guys, do you think we're promoting as much as we should be, and from a fan's perspective, people just get too excited about the possibility of new transfers, or do we need to spend the money that we're being talked about, like 150 million, to compete with the likes of Chelsea and City, Real Madrid, Barcelona in Europe?
It's a balancing act, isn't it? I mean, we've got to be able to compete with these teams like Chelsea and so on. But like Chelsea, they don't bring through any youth. And if Manchester United became that kind of club, I would be a little bit disappointed. There's nothing more exciting than seeing a player come through your youth ranks. And that's why we all fell in love with Danny Welbeck, let's be honest. He was a Manchester United fan on the pitch. And we loved watching him play for the club. So I think we need to continue doing that. I think what we've got to be careful with is we've seen Tom Thorpe go this summer as well. And in my opinion, it was the right decision. He never got opportunities under David Moyes, under Louis van Gaal. There's obviously a reason there. Now, he's quite obviously talented, better than Blackett, better than McNair, a lot of people will say. But like Ryan Shawcroft when he left, a lot of people get a little bit confused as to why these talents have gone. And while they are great talents, will they ever be Manchester United players? And that's what you've got to ask yourself. So I think there are decisions that have to be made, like that Tom Thorpe one, where, you're a bit gutted to see a player go, but ultimately it's the best thing for the club and the player. So we've got to hit the balancing act, and we've got to get it right. But I think Louis van Gaal will do that. He's given contracts to Pereira. He's made sure Januzaj stays within the ranks. Blackett, McNair have come through. So I'm confident we've got the right man to continue our club traditions and bring immediate success.
Okay, Howson, do you feel the same?
Yeah, he's exactly right there. It's got to be a balancing act. If you go too far down one road, you end up with a team of mercenaries like you've got at City and like you've got at Chelsea. And I think there's a reason why City have never managed to complete back-to-back titles, and that's not because the team's not good enough, because it probably is, but I think you lack a bit of team spirit and a bit of team ethos when you have players that just come in and going for the money. And I think players that you bring through the academy, they've got the club at the heart, they've got the fans at the heart, and that is why we go and watch football, because they're representing where we're from. And that's what you've got to have with players if you want to succeed. All the great teams that we've ever had have had youth products in them that have been central to what that team has gone on to achieve. And if that ever changed, like Mac, I'd be devastated.
Okay. Halson, do you think there's a fear that under the new Manchester United that we've seen with Ed Woodward, that he's saying, you know, we'll spend any money we want on any player, that we are starting to go more Manchester City, more Paris Saint-Germain, more Chelsea in our approach to our squad, in that we just buy and buy and buy, and perhaps we only saw the likes of Paddy McNair and Tyler Blackett because we couldn't sign the defenders we wanted in the last window.
Can I stop you there, Sam? Manchester United have always broken transfer records.
Yeah, I was going to say
it's not nothing new. Whether a player comes through an academy, when players are available, we break records. We've done it in the past, and we'll continue to do it. It's obviously because it's at a different level now. So many more clubs have done it. Our money comes from success. We haven't got no pimp handing out the money. We've got them Glazers that don't even hardly let us at our money. So I think Manchester United spending money is something that has to be done. It's our money, not the Glazers. And if we don't spend it, it's going to be in his pocket.
But Adam, Woodward has said he will change the ethos. He is going to keep buying people.
Fair dues, Woodward. Well done. About time.
Do you want me to answer that question now?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah,
Sorry,
Adam's right. We have broke the British transfer record more than any other club. So we have always bought, but that's always been supplemented and blended with youth players that are coming through. And as long as we continue to compete at the top table when we need to, we can always bring in young players. I think what's happened with young players of late is that we've signed players 22, 23, 24 years of age, and they're going in front of an academy player that, you know, is basically only a couple of years younger than the guy that's in front of him, so he's not going to have that opportunity. We've seen it with Raphael and Fabio. When Fabio had Ever in front of him and Raphael had an aging Gary Neville in front of him, Fabio got no game time versus Raphael, who got a lot of game time. And because them two are twins, you have to say that those two are about as equal as you're going to get in terms of footballers' ability, but one excelled and one completely didn't, and that's just purely down to game time. Young players,
one wasn't he?
Young players need games, and that's the top and bottom of it.
Go on, Dave, weigh in. What do you
think?
Well,
I think it's a dangerous attitude at the moment that we've got at the club, throwing money at these big players. I do agree that, yeah, you're going to have these big signings from time to time, but you've got to have this, you know, a core of youth players that, you know, that are passionate for the club. That's how you win titles, and that's how you develop. You look at the likes of Barcelona and Bayern Munich, two of the clubs that we should really be, you know, looking to achieve as much as them, and that's what we've got to drive for. And I really think the model of going in the summer and signing the likes of Angel Di Maria, signing the likes of Falcao is completely going against that. Yes, we've got to spend big, but massively we've got to look at our academy. Our academy hasn't been working for British players in the last few seasons. We haven't really seen anything. Potentially this season, we have seen Paddy McNair come out, we have seen Blackett come out, we've seen Wilson come out. But recently, before that, you look at the last years under Fergie, you look at the years under Moyes, no one's come in. I think we've got to change our model. We've got to go down the Southampton sort of style, where they've got that head of football development that controls everything from under 9s up to under 21s, and then decides who the first team signs, and then they bring in a head coach, and that head coach has a 3-year, 2-year life cycle, and it just goes over and over again. But I think we've got to make that step from having Woodward as you know, what it does this role. Then we've got to bring someone else underneath him to sort of control the academy, control everything. Really, I think it's got to go that way. And if we don't go that way, we will go down the line of being a Man City, being a Chelsea, not being able to retain titles, not having any history, and then having that a big problem on our back.
I think you're a little unfair there, Dave, actually, because Manchester United's level of expectation is just that much higher than Southampton. Southampton are happy if they finish in the top half of the table, so they can afford to bring young players in and not have it affect Champions League or title ambitions. The bar is so much higher at Manchester United.
Massively disagree.
Also, I hate to go on about it, lad.
I hate
to go on about it. The Glazers haven't invested for how long?
Right, anyway, right.
The
bar is that high for Manchester United that academy players almost have to be internationals before they get Manchester United team games. And that's the actual truth. There's not any hyperbole in there whatsoever. It's just you've got to be international level quality. There's no proving ground for Manchester United players. You have to come in and be international level or you don't get it.
Well, then that's a massive problem with our academy, okay? Look at players that LVG has brought through in his time. You know, you've got Seedorf, you've got Davids, you've got Kluivert, a top academy at Ajax that performs year in, year out, proving players through. We don't have that at the moment. Yeah, fair enough, you've got to be at a certain standard. But again, you've got to give these players a chance. You look at Barcelona, who he brought through.
I agree, but that was 20 years ago and the football's moved on.
Football hasn't moved on. Football is still a game where you develop players, and if you're not developing players at the right standard or under the right philosophy, they're not going to get into your first team. Yes, they don't have to be world stars. They can be players. Van Gaal obviously believes in the players. But is an example of a player that I think will be a top player. But we need to do that more. We really do. And I think that the come out of Southampton not being a Champions League side, they've come from League One. They've had this same philosophy from League One. They've gone from League One, they got the Championship, to the Premier League, they stayed up, and now where do they come? You know, in Europe. It's absolutely, it's exactly the same thing. If we bring that model to early doors before people clock on, we're going to have an advantage in the market. An advantage in the market, we don't have to go out and spend £60 million on Angel Di Maria because we have a new Angel Di Maria coming through. You know what I'm saying? It's a different thing. I think that model is where you need to go.
Dave is so passionate, he's turned into a giant pixel. Adam is so despondent, he looks like he's about to kill himself.
I don't know what's going on.
This is the craziest video we've ever done.
I want to get stuck in.
Right,
and
here we go. Last question from all of you. I would like each one of you to tell me a player from the academy around that group of players who you think we should be looking out for next year, or a player you hope gets that opportunity. I will start with you, Adam, so that you can go and cry.
Yes, I got to go first. That means I get to say the obvious one. Well, I was going to say Andreas Pereira, but I'm not actually. I'm going to say Fosu Mensah, the defender from the academy. I think he's someone that needs to be introduced into the under-21s a lot more this season. I think he could eventually, if he succeeds at that level, be involved with the first team, whether it's in the squad and, you know, getting 5 minutes here and there. But with the defence the way we are at the moment, I think he's one that could pop through. But saying that, because we've targeted someone like Ramos, I hope we have, because of the age that Ramos, Otamendi are at, it doesn't mean that a player like Fosu Mensah coming through or Twanzebe coming through is knocked down that pecking order too much by a younger centre half. So I'd like to see that one of those two, Twanzebe and Fosu Mensah.
Okay, Pixel Dave.
Well, I'm going to go for Andreas Pereira 100%. I think he's been absolutely brilliant for the under-21s last season, and for Brazil actually in the under-20s World Cup. He's been fantastic. He's not really been playing, you know, he didn't start every single game at the under-20s World Cup, but when he came on, he made massive impact. What I like about him is his feet are brilliant. For Brazil, he was playing on the left-hand side, the left wing. He was drifting into the 10 slot. He was creating. He'd make things happen. He'd have a shot, or he'd play a through ball, or he'd take someone on. There's always that, you know, he wants to beat people. And you look at his delivery from set pieces, absolutely brilliant. Going back to a game for United under 21s this season against Chelsea, you know, he didn't really have the greatest game with the ball at his feet, but you look at his set pieces, he scored a deflected free kick, then whipped an absolutely fantastic ball in for the winner. That's what he's got. He's got quality from set piece. Going back to the under-20s World Cup, a game against Hungary, again, fantastic performance coming off from the bench. A brilliant corner, got the equaliser, and then had the composure to slot away a penalty. Moving on from that into the final, you know, again, not starting. The Brazil coach, I don't know what he was doing, a crazy man. But Pereira comes on, you know, he scores a brilliant individual goal. If you've not seen that, you've got to check that out. You know, slaloming past three players, putting the ball in the bottom corner.
It's like Giggsy.
Looking at the stats from that tournament, you know, Pereira was directly involved in more goals than any Brazilian player. Brazil got to the final, they lost the final. 2 goals, 2 assists, scored or assisted a goal every 74 minutes. That's big things for Pereira.
Dave is on fire.
Okay. Go on, Housen.
Dave's killed it with the stats. Obviously, he's still talking, actually.
I said stick your spreadsheets where the sun don't
he's
shine.
still talking.
He is still talking, I just don't think we can hear him.
We'll just carry on.
Pereira, as everyone has already said, is the complete obvious choice. So I'm not going to say Pereira. I'm going to move it slightly to left. And I'm going to disagree with Adam a little bit, that Fosu Mensah, because he's so young that he's not quite ready. I think we'll see him on a tour. He'll probably get minutes on a tour, but first team, I don't think so. I'd like to see him step up and be consistent.
Involved, you know, like...
Yeah, I want to see him in the under-21s, and I want to see him maybe in the League Cup, but I don't think you'll see him in the league. So I don't think he's going to be wanting to step up. Pereira, I think, probably will. But the one I want to look for is probably Joe Rothwell. I think Joe Rothwell's probably the closest one that looks to a polished player.
What about Pearson, Arsene? What do you think about him?
Pearson as well, but I think
under-21s,
his sort of position and mentality, I think you need to be someone a bit more physical, and I think he's a little bit on the small side. Whereas Rothwell, I could see coming in and basically mimicking what Herrera does in the first team. So if Herrera picks up a knock or there's a League Cup match and you want to see how he will do, Joe Rothwell is the one I expect he makes his debut this year. I hope he goes on to get 3 or 4 games, and I think people will be delighted with what they see.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. Right, they were on Skype. That was a lovely little chat we just had. whilst you're here and you're on YouTube, check out the Football Republic as another channel, but we like what they're doing. We might do some stuff with them. Subscribe to them, because then you can see more of us and more of other people. You'll love it. It's all football. Let us know what you think about young players, about Pixel Dave's performance. That was quite funny, wasn't it? And anything else surrounding the Manchester United ethos versus the need to buy expensive footballers. Let us know what you think. Get in the comments below, and we will see you later.
Pixel Dave, Pixel Dave.